I saved Dexter from all of that. Gave him a good life, a chance to thrive. He never would have had that with you.
When I first heard about a Dexter prequel, I did not have a whole lot of faith in the idea. Dexter was a franchise that was already rich with relevant flashback material, and the flashbacks we got covered key points in Dexter's past, where we always got just what we needed and nothing more. Beyond that, likable characters were a key part of the show's success, where it was very difficult to imagine other actors and actresses playing the parts of the beloved characters who drove the show, with Michael C. Hall, of course, being chief among them. On top of all that, you had the inherent problems that come with any prequel territory, where we already know the future fate of many of the characters, so we know who survives or not, at least into the original timeline. The entire idea of a Dexter prequel and sequel felt as if the show creators were trying to drain the franchise of every last drop of blood, like the ice truck killer himself. Indeed, there is some truth there for sure, but at the end of the day, Dexter Original Sin worked as a worthy chapter in the Dexter franchise. The concerns about the cast were much ado about nothing. The cast was terrific, and the big three in the Morgan family all carried the roles tremendously well. Patrick Gibson did a wonderful job playing a young Dexter. A lot of the mannerisms and deliveries were eerily on point, and having Hall's voiceover inner monologue only served to amplify Gibson's performance, where it truly felt like Dexter. Molly Brown was on point as a young Deborah Morgan, where she too captured a lot of the same magic that defined Deb as a character. Christian Slater provided a bit of a different take on Harry Morgan, which worked very well in the prequel, where we got more of a real glimpse into what Harry was like. A little different than how he was portrayed in the original, in the form of Dexter's memories and as his inner monologue. But Slater nailed it, and in a very real way he carried the show, where Harry was easily the most interesting character in the prequel. Combined with all that, the chemistry between the three exuded the familiar vibe from the original. The chemistry between them all was terrific, whether as a trio or any combination of pairs. I thought the scenes between Dexter and Deb were especially good at recreating the familiar sibling interactions we'd grown accustomed to. And the show truly shined whenever Dexter and Harry were engaged, even more so when Hall's voice figured into the situation, where his voiceovers were flawlessly true to the original, just the right amount, never too much, with the magical situational humor where Hall never seems to miss the mark. The rest of the cast was exceptional as well, where the portrayals of Masuka, Batista, and Camilla were all very good, and LaGuerta was especially well done, pitch perfect. Laura Moser was strong, as were both versions of Brian, young and old. Between the cast, the storytelling, the pacing, and the familiar settings and musical cues, it all felt like vintage Dexter, which is something that I believe is easy to take for granted. It had the same charm as the early seasons of the show. A lot of things needed to go right to recreate that classic Dexter vibe, and I thought they remained true to form in ways that exuded the type of authenticity that are mighty difficult to recreate in these types of projects. My concerns about the flashback elements were quickly alleviated. They dove right in with both feet and got us to Dexter's first kill immediately, giving us a familiar and more detailed take on Dexter's showdown with Nurse Mary. A wise move to get right back to basics. A tried and proven formula, but with the clock turned back a bit, where we got to experience Dexter's early growing pains as he began to evolve into more of the finished product. Throughout the course of the season, Dexter and Harry strive to fine-tune the approach. Dexter never quite learned his lesson from the Nurse Mary trophies, but he did at least temporarily halt the practice. Early on, young Dexter had no reliable means to incapacitate his victims, and the Mad Dog trial nearly ended in disaster. But between Dexter working the M99 into the routine, combined with Harry's suggestion of smelling salts, they found a suitable solution. There was also the issue of dumping bodies, where the gator-infested waters proved too risky, and the improvised dumpster drop was not a long-term solution. But Dexter had his eureka moment, access to slice of pie, and in the season finale, Dexter officially dumped his first body overboard, a key evolutionary step in becoming the one and only Bay Harbor Butcher. Incredibly, a show which itself was largely one gigantic flashback had its very own flashback sequences, and it was all about Harry Morgan. Harry was one of the few characters where we got a lot of new information, starting with the fact his first son drowned as a result of his own negligence. The rest of it was primarily about his involvement with his CI, Laura Moser. We already knew all the broad strokes in this one, but even still, they made it work and kept it interesting, with just enough new information that complemented previous knowledge. And this in turn related to the events in the normal prequel timeline, particularly the return of Brian Moser, which was cleverly inserted as a side story that ultimately culminated with the unexpected twist of his earlier efforts to reconnect with Dexter, where we got a lot of new details about the man who will become the ice truck killer. On the whole, Spencer was a bit generic as far as Dexter big bads go, but it worked. Spencer being the type of monster that even Dexter couldn't quite understand. One who Dexter saw for who he truly was, despite Harry's dismissals. It made for a good story, with its own little twists and turns along the way leading to the revelation and their inevitable showdown. Dexter chose to save the child rather than immediately eliminate Spencer, which at the end of the day only serves to show that Nutjob Harry had other options. Rather than teach Dexter to become the ultimate serial killer, the theme that Harry could have maybe taught him some other ways to cope with his dark passenger is an omnipresent one throughout Dexter Original Sin. It's ironic that Harry acts as some savior for Dexter in his confrontation with Brian, when Harry actually only served to transform Dexter into a killing machine. Likewise ironic that Harry views Spencer as a monster for harming his son, yet he is oblivious to the damage that he has done to his own adopted son. If I had one minor complaint about the prequel, nitpicking variety here, but I cannot help but feel Sarah Michelle Gellar's character was a bit wasted. She was terrific in the part, but I still feel like there was a huge missed opportunity with the character. I think she had something more to offer Dexter, in some sort of mentor capacity, where she takes Dexter's raw talent for breaking down a crime scene and helps amplify his game in a way where, much like we got to see him grow and evolve as a serial killer, where Harry was instrumental, that maybe we could have gotten to see him grow and evolve when breaking down a crime scene where Tanya was instrumental. Regardless, it sounds like Buffy is making a triumphant return, and that is very welcome news indeed. I thought the finale did a solid job bringing everything together in a satisfactory fashion, where they clearly had a follow-up in mind. I think they could carry on with Harry's flashbacks within the flashback, where maybe Nutjob Harry starts to recognize that he, quite literally, created a monster. I think the show could conceivably extend to Harry's suicide and beyond, where we see young Dexter's early inner monologue Harry scenes. Dexter assumes Harry's supposed suicide happens after Harry walked in and saw Dexter merrily carving up Juan Rhinus. But the way things end, the idea that Brian Moser may have been directly involved in Harry's murder remains a compelling possibility. Whether Brian's story is done in the prequel territory or not, the idea that Brian might murder Harry and make it look like a suicide isn't a stretch. He did, after all, murder Dexter's biological father, Joe Driscoll, and made it look like a heart attack. It will likewise be interesting to see how LaGuerta proceeds from here. In the original series, LaGuerta hears of Brian Moser for the first time in the Season 1 finale, after Batista got a hit on the Prince. The name did not seem to ring a bell to her there. But later in season 7, after she discovers the blood slide, she remembers that Dokes always thought there was something off about Dexter. She does her own investigation, and during that, Matthews informs her that Laura Moser was murdered with 2 surviving children, Brian and Dexter. LaGuerta makes the connection that Dexter's brother was the ice truck killer. The idea of Matthews becoming a main character in another season is something that would inherently have a lot of potential, as there was always an aura about Matthews, where you sensed he knew more than he let on about Harry and Dexter, and who knows, maybe Vogel too. But seeing Matthews enter the fold comes with a lot of potential and opportunity. At the end of the day, Dexter Original Sin represented a worthy chapter in the Dexter franchise. And for what it was very well done. It wasn't exactly groundbreaking stuff, but it provided for a fun and enjoyable viewing experience. One that stayed true to the spirit of the original, while overcoming a lot of inherent prequel territory obstacles working against it. I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed Dexter Original Sin. I welcome a second season, and I am now more fired up for Dexter Resurrection than I would have otherwise been. What do you think? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful night.
She's killing you with high levels of potassium nitrate.
Just stop. Her.
She gave them to Sophia, which is...
Those earrings are evidence. What is the first goddamn rule of the code?
Don't get caught.
Why did you take them?
I wanted to remember.
They're trophies. That's sick. Do everything the way we practiced. No shortcuts. And no fucking trophies. He's a professional hitman, Dexter. You think you can beat Michael Jordan at one-on-one?
Who?
How did everything go with Mad Dog?
Everything went well. But he woke up a little early, and I just cut the ankle ropes to get his pants off.
Why were you taking his pants off? You let a half-naked man run screaming into the streets. I'm imagining that you were chasing after him. Smelling salts. So you don't have to wait as long when you get Levi Reed.
Former home invasion killer, soon to be alligator food. At least I had settled on the perfect place to dump the bodies.
I need that window down, sir.
I've got a body in the back of the truck.
It's an active crime scene.
There's cops everywhere.
You had a dead body in the back of that truck, and you were surrounded by homicide detectives.
Yeah, but it's not like anybody knew.
Oh, Jesus.
Morgan!
What happened? Alligator came out of nowhere.
Please, don't tell me Levi's body is still in the truck.
He'll be buried in a landfill by now.
All right, well, that explains the smell. B. Moser.
He wasn't just a drug runner. He was one of the 3 men responsible for killing Dexter Morgan's biological mother, Laura Moser.
Moser?
Yeah.
Who the hell is Brian Moser?
She was butchered by Jimenez with a chainsaw. Right in front of Dexter and his brother Brian.
Brian Moser? The ice truck killer, that was Dexter's brother?
Yeah.
He's had flashes of violence. He put our baby in danger.
So I'm afraid we can't handle his level of trauma.
You promised me you wouldn't separate me and Dexter.
I'm sorry.
But you did. He's my brother. He's the only family I have in this world.
And he's a trigger for you. It'll only cause you to spiral.
I can handle it.
Actually, you can't.
And while you were being raised by the Morgan family, I only had the memory of a family.
He killed himself, Dexter.
What's wrong? Are you okay?
Just stay away. Please. Stay away.
You chose to save a child instead of giving in to your own compulsions.
I controlled my urges.
You channeled them. For good. You can hate me for good reasons. And still know that I am the best thing for Dexter.
Thanks to your code.
It's your code now.
You don't have a code. Harry did. And he's been dead 10 years.
I killed my father.
Damn it, Dexter. There are consequences to everything you do in life. Lose control, become powerless, and it's over.